You're listening to Online Pet Health Podcasts with Dr. Megan Kelly. Continuing education for veterinarian rehabilitation therapists. Learn more at onlinepethealth.com.
Hey vet rehabbers, today I chat with Donna Wills and Danielle Anderson, both mentors in our Online Pet Health Mentorship program. Now, our community is incredibly important to us, and we are continuously striving for ways in which we can support and uplift you. For many years now, I've been providing mentorship to our members, but mainly from a business perspective. But it became clear that there was a much bigger need than that. Not only do vet rehabbers need mentorship from a business perspective, but also from a clinical and a personal perspective. So the more clear this need became, the more we knew we needed to do something. And so the mentorship program was born. If you'd like to become a part of this mentorship program, whether that's a mentor or a mentee, all you need to do is join one of our Facebook groups. We have 4 groups: the Business Vet Rehabbers, Hydro Vet Rehabbers, Equine Vet Rehabbers, and Small Animal Vet Rehabbers. Once you are part of those Facebook groups, there is a pin post on the top of that page that gives you all the instructions on how you can get involved, whether you want to be a mentor or mentee in our mentorship program. I had a really interesting chat with both Donna and Danielle about how they mentor their mentees, how they meet up, as well as what they get out of it. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. Over to Donna and Danielle. Hey Donna, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
So Donna, you have so kindly volunteered to be a mentor in our mentor program. For those listeners that don't know about Donna, won't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Donna Wills. I run Animal Physiotherapy Ltd in the UK. I've been a physio for 15 years and it's evolved hugely in that time. And so have I, and I love it.
So obviously this mentor program is something that we've started in our Facebook groups. So we have the Small Animal Vet Rehabbers group, the Hydro Vet Rehabbers, and the Equine and the Business Vet Rehabbers, so 4 groups. And it's something that we started because we really felt that vet rehabbers around the world, there were a lot of us that were so isolated. And you'll know this because you work on your own. And I think during COVID, this was completely exacerbated because we didn't get to see people at conferences. And, I think just generally, we're not seeing people. So we just feel so isolated on our own. And we started the mentor program to help those people that were in practice, maybe 1 or 2 of them, or maybe just them by themselves, and just to try and offer some support from our community to everyone in the vet rehab world. So what was the reason that you signed up to be a mentor?
Well, I have to say, you've hit the nail on the head completely. It is a very lonely industry. And, it can be a very intimidating industry and daunting industry as well. So, and then of course, COVID made it even worse. It's an evolving industry, very much so. And so I just felt, I always feel that I like to be very positive and I want to help. And I do believe very much in karma. I think what goes around comes around. So, there was an opportunity to share and grow. And so I thought, well, why not? Why not offer something that I really could have done with when I started out? And to be perfectly honest, even to this day, I think it's, you always need help. There's always somebody you can ask for help and support. And, so I just wanted to help and do that and see where it would go. I had no idea how positive the mentorship program would be, but I'm really glad I did it.
So what are the skills that you think that you have that helps your mentees?
I think really it's just experience. And so the fact that I've been doing this for 15 years just means that I've learned a lot over the year. I've tried things that haven't worked and I've tried a lot of things that have worked. And the fact that I have a successful business just means that I feel like proof is in the pudding. I've got a lot of vets that support me. And so, I feel like I don't necessarily need to blow my own trumpet, because I think the fact that I've got so many clients speaks for that. So that's kind of good. So I felt like, well, if I've got this many patients and I'm doing okay and my vets are really happy, then I must have something to share. So I didn't necessarily think about what I had to share before I signed up, because I thought, well, you don't know what support they need, because everybody's different. So I thought, just, go for it and see what they say. And if I can help, then great. If I can't, then I'll learn. So, yeah, and it's all been great.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're one of our very experienced mentors, because you've been in the field for quite a long time. But I think that you don't have to be in the field for 10, 15 years to be a mentor. You can be in the field for 2 or 3 years and be a mentor, because you've just been through those early years, and I think it depends on where you are in practice, what you're looking for in a mentor. I think that obviously when for example, like you, 15 years, you've been through everything. So you have so much experience to share, and in business as well as clinical. But I think those maybe 2 to 3 years, maybe they're looking for more clinical mentorship than they are for business. Your experience now with your mentees, what are they mainly looking for? Do you have a balance of clinical as well as business advice, or is it mainly the clinical mentorship they're looking for?
Yes, but also, just to jump back on that, somebody mentoring who's only had a sort of couple of years experience, totally agree with that, because it's evolved so much over time that now, when I first started out, there wasn't many clients coming through my door because it wasn't such a well-known thing. So now I think somebody who's been in it for just a year or two has probably had a hell of a lot more clients than I did back when I'd had a year or two. So it definitely have a lot to offer. And then the type of mentoring that I end up, the questions I end up answering and things like that, it is mostly that we talk about business. I wouldn't say that that's because I aim it for that direction. It's just that I let the mentors do the asking. They ask questions, and the questions they ask are often business related. Sometimes they ask about electrotherapy, machines that I have, what I've tried using, stuff like that. And there are some clinical cases as well that we discuss. But actually, because there's so many forums for finding out information like that, a lot of the mentees feel it's easier to find out clinical stuff using like the forum and stuff like that. Whereas when it comes to the business stuff, I think that perhaps it's much more specific to an area, for instance. So they find it, obviously the online stuff's very, that's very diverse, and pretty much the same everywhere. But when it comes to sort of knowing your vets and your local demographic, I think they perhaps need a bit more help that's a bit more locally specific. So that's where they sort of ask for more specific help.
Yeah, I think on the forums, especially with the business questions, like you say, it depends really where you are. And often it's not like you can't like type a question of your business and then get the answer. It's normally a few questions. So the person who is giving the advice will say, well, tell me about this, and they need a little bit more information to be able to help. So those business discussions are not usually a sort of quick paragraph answer to support that person. Whereas in the clinical way, you post it on one of the groups, and then multiple people will add in things. They might ask a few questions, but you can pretty much get the advice that you need. Why do you think it is that us vet rehabbers struggle? I mean, I actually know the answer to this, but I just wanted to know from you, like, struggle so much in business. Like I think about we're not the only ones in the medical field, right, that didn't get trained in business. I mean, they're doctors, they're dentists, they're all these people. Like I sort of think, like, is there something missing from the training or something that we're doing? Because are dentists and doctors and physios and everyone, are they all in the same boat as us? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that our struggle with business is that we're not money orientated. And so we're goal orientated, we're love orientated, and those are not things that generally drive business. And so I think that's a real problem. I think it is actually across the board. I think that's why so many of these conglomerates have been so successful in snapping up businesses and turning them into active vet cares or whatever, is because actually we're not business orientated. So as soon as somebody says, I'll run the business side for you, you'll just do the animals, everybody goes, okay then. And so because it just makes life easier. And I think business is scary. I look back at some of the things I've done and I think, God, did I really do that? Whoa. And it's because you've got to be cheeky, you've got to be out of your comfort zone big time. And those sorts of things, you either, I guess, survive or thrive. And I think that, yes, it's tough. It's not easy. And also business evolves. So you think, all right, I've done that bit, so now I'm settled. That's not how it is at all. And also IT and tech, none of us animal lovers love that. We all hate it. And so I don't think that IT and biology perhaps mix as well as everybody thinks. And so, as soon as it comes to having to do the IT side of things, we all kind of go, I don't want to know, and walk away. But unfortunately, you've got no choice but to keep learning, and keep learning, so that you can do it. And yeah, I think that's the struggle.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think, most of us got into the field of vet rehab because we wanted to treat animals. And if I think about it, I think the problem is that there is such a big business component if we have our own practices. And that's whether we're like a mobile one-man band or we have a two-man practice or whatever. What generally happens is, we might hire other people to help us. And if you think about it, we spend about a day, 90% of the time in the consult room. And then we have this very small amount of time. And the thing is, because of our way of thinking and what we want to be doing, we want to be treating the animals. That's what we prioritize, treating the animals. And then the business side of things becomes such a small priority, although we know we should be doing it. So I really found this with vet rehabbers, like when, that I love marketing, and marketing is like a thing for me. And I'm always trying to encourage vet rehabbers to market their practices. And I know they want to, and they want to get the benefits from it, but it's just to try and prioritize the time. And then what tends to happen is as you expand, you get another vet rehabber in. And I remember this happening with me in my practice, when I started to hire other people. And then I started to resent them because they were doing all the fun stuff. And I was sitting, half days in the office doing all the finances and all the other things. And that's not what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be in the consult room. And so you end up actually hiring other people to do the work that you want to be doing. And then you sit and do all the business stuff. So I understand, why when that franchise or that big conglomerate comes along, that's why people jump at it. They think, well, I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to do that business stuff. But then there are those people that are actually enjoy doing the business stuff. They're actually okay with doing half. If you look at your mentees, how many mentees have you got at the moment, and how does it work? So do you meet them one-on-one? Do you meet them all together?
So, I was never given a plan. So I kind of formed this plan, and I have to say I've lucked out and it works really well. So I'm thrilled about it. So I've had 6 in total. I can only take 5 at a time. So I've had one who's already popped off and a new one in, which is good because obviously she felt great, which is wonderful. And obviously that's the point as well, is that you want to keep the door evolving so that you can help more people. But yeah, how it works is that they know that I'm here for them if they need me one-to-one, but we try and have a meeting every 2 weeks online as a group. And I think it works perfectly because other people haven't necessarily thought of the questions that another person brings in, but that doesn't mean they don't have that issue or that they don't or won't have that issue at some point. So they all get a lot out of it. And even when, because sometimes I think, God blimey, you've sat and waited 40 minutes to be able to do your bit of talking. And, and I'll say that to them and they're like, no, I've been really enjoying listening. So they all get something out of everybody else's, thing to talk about. And how it runs is that over the 2 weeks, they message me if they've got something they want to talk about. And I have my little book that I write it all on. And then when we have a meeting, I'll talk through all the points that they have brought up in the 2 weeks. And sometimes they bring up nothing, which is great. And then I go around the group and they tell us what they've been up to, what achievements they've had, and then what issues they might have. And we discuss that. Everybody gets that opportunity. And then based on what problems they've had, or what you listen to, basically, you've got to be a good listener. We then form a task for them to do for the next 2 weeks. And so some of that has been about marketing. It has been about getting on Facebook Living or something. But actually one of my mentees, I very much set her up with a challenge because she was still handwriting her notes. And I said, look, we all love handwriting notes. I used to do it for a lot as well, but that is eating your time. You cannot handwrite your notes and then go back and type it up. It's ridiculous. You need your evenings back. So I did put my foot down really firmly and say, that is your challenge for the next 2 weeks. And she's thrilled because she said it's unbelievable the time it's changed, even though she hasn't completely changed over yet. She knows she's still got to do more. The point is she's now on that path, which she wouldn't have been because she hasn't been up until now. So, I feel like that's a massive achievement, and I feel good because I feel like I've achieved it with her, if that makes sense. So so ours works as a group system, very much so, and then they set up a system like a little little Facebook group between themselves as well. So they've kind of all now formed a friendship and a group support for when, because like I said, I can't be here for you all the time. I have got to work as well. So they, they're very respectful of the fact that I give them that hour twice a week. And then if I can catch up on the Facebook group, I will. But if I can't, that's them talking to each other. So yeah, I'm really thrilled. I feel like the system works really well.
Yeah, and the one nice thing is that people are grouped together. So I mean, this is just so the listeners to know, this is a completely volunteer thing. So like our mentors volunteer, Anis, who organizes, a volunteer. Everyone that does this is completely volunteering. It really is a community-based project. So it's been quite an undertaking because we have people from all over the world. And so we have to try and group people in time zones. And I'm guessing most of the people in your group are UK, Europe based. Is that right?
Yes, they've all been UK based because there's enough UK based people that need it. And I did say to Agnes, I'm happy to do anyone in the whole world. That's not a problem. But I felt like I could probably help UK people better just because I know the demographic ultimately. So I think that Agnes just had so many people that she, it's very easy to give me UK people. But obviously at some point, I think that it's evolving, the group's evolving, so you can pick your mentor. So, whoever, it doesn't really matter. But I think I've got more to offer to a UK person just because I know the vets and understand it more here, and I don't have much global experience.
Well, we really need more mentors. So any of the listeners out there, if you want to volunteer, all you got to do is go join one of our Facebook groups. All the information is there. It's all pinned up. So please, guys, we're calling on you to help mentor all those people in the vet rehab community. One of the things I love what you're saying is the accountability factor that you have, because I think that's really where a mentor comes in. And, like you said, you put your foot down, you said, no, this person now needs to do this. Sometimes that's actually what you need. And you need somebody, 2 weeks later when you see them again, when that meeting comes up, if you're a vet rehab and you're thinking, I haven't done anything, I haven't done all those things, that accountability, I know for me, really, really works so well. If I think, no, I'm supposed to do something, and especially those people who work on deadlines, then they'll think, I got to do something. So that's really, really great.
It does. And I mean, it works as well, like, because obviously you're very motivating, Meg. And so I always take that very personally, even though it's not even aimed at me. But, absolutely, the accountability does really help because we don't, often we're all working alone. And so there's no one kicking you up the bum other than your clients. So hence getting you more appointments, which is lovely. But it is hard to find the time to move on, business wise. So it does really help from that point of view. And actually, I think I'm quite fair. And so like one week, everybody came on and they were just exhausted. And I don't know what had happened that week or anything, but everybody's exhausted. People hadn't actually achieved what they needed to achieve for the last 2 weeks. And so I said, right, do you know what? Pens down, see your clients, have 2 weeks and make sure that you find some chill time. I want you to do at least an hour of your own time doing your own thing, in the week at some point. And and they all tried really hard to do that. And they realized then how hard it was to actually find physical time to just, which is ridiculous. I mean, an hour, for God's sake. But, myself included, I put myself in that bracket and said, right, we're all going to try and find some downtime. And, so it's really good. So it's not always about being go, 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 but it's also recognizing your own mental health as well. So, yeah, there's so many aspects of this that it covers that I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think you become sort of a life mentor in a way too. There's recently been this whole campaign of not one more vet. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, and so that downtime is important, because I think us as vet rehabbers, we also struggle at times, and I think as we work really really hard, we have to deal with end of life, which I think is really really difficult, and I think that a lot of us don't admit it, or don't allow ourselves to admit it, that these kind of things, bereavement and dealing with these kind of things is tricky. And I think it's harder for some people than others, depending on what's happened in your life, right? You could have had something happen in your family, or something that triggers something in you. And so we always got to be thinking about taking some downtime and actually looking after ourselves. Because the bottom line is that if we are not healthy, if we are not in a good space, it's really difficult to make an impact on our patients and treat our patients effectively. And if I think back to my practice days, I mean, in the beginning, when there were hardly any vet rehabbers in South Africa, it was so hard to find someone to help me. It was so hard to get a locum in if I wanted to take a break. And I was just consulting, seeing 13 patients a day. The treadmill was going flat out. I didn't have a lunch break. I was just, burning the candle at both ends. And then I eventually realized, I remember at one stage, a client phoned and said this dog was in pain. And I sort of had no empathy. I just thought, I was just so exhausted. I had basically compassion fatigue. I had this, and I remember going back to my husband and saying, there's something wrong with me. This person phoned, and not that I didn't care, I cared, but I didn't care like I normally cared. I was just oh, well, do I have to see it? That was my thought. And that's so not me. I mean, for me, it's always bring them down, however I can help. But I didn't have that feeling. And I suddenly realized I had to do something about this. This is actually not okay. And so, it's important that as mentors, we're also helping our mentees with all those kind of things. There's so much to deal with, isn't there?
Oh, there's a lot of pressure. But yeah, no, I'm so conscious of it in the veterinary industry, and we are part of that veterinary industry, and so we have to take it on our shoulders. And it's not just vets, it's vet nurses, and that means it is everybody else within that vet care team as well. And and actually, I think it's probably almost anyone working with animals, they get that compassion, and if they don't, they're probably not doing the right job. But it is about managing that compassion. So yeah, it is hard. It's really hard. But you do have to just keep going, don't you? And just sort of make sure that you find your plan that works for everybody. And that's why I try and stay very positive about it all. But I've been there. I've ended up in the counsellors from my job and God knows what. And and I openly tell that to people, because I think it's really important that people know that this is not easy, and you're not alone if you're struggling, because it's really hard.
Yeah. So if you look at your your involvements in this mentorship program, what is the biggest thing that you've learned from it?
Actually, it's really funny, but I think the biggest thing I've learned is how far I've come, how much I've learned over all this time. Because when someone asks you a question, the first thing you think is, oh God, am I going to be able to answer it? And then you just do. And then you just think, oh my God, I actually had something really good to share there. And it's not that you obviously don't know these things. It's just that you don't know that you know them. Does that make sense? And so I found that it's really helped my self-confidence, and, helped me feel like, oh wow, it really reflect on how much I have achieved over the years. And then obviously I have learned other anecdotes, because new students obviously are learning new things all the time, so they've come in with a fresh set of eyes, and so they might have learned about something that I haven't got to yet because it hasn't been covered in my CPDs. And certainly the education has evolved, it's evolving all the time, so that happens. And then some of them have tried new types of business things, like podcasts or the ebooks or stuff that I hadn't got round to. And so it's really nice to see how that's working for them. And obviously it's almost working as a team to make sure that flourishes as well, and make sure things are going in the right direction. So yeah, there's an awful lot to learn as a mentor, an awful lot. But I would say also the fact that it's helped my confidence because of just reflecting on how much I've achieved is, and you know, how much I can answer is actually, that's a really good thing, because there's nobody else in your workplace when you work alone checking in, other than the fact that your patients get better, which obviously is great, but there's nobody else checking in and asking you things, so you just don't acknowledge how much you've learned. And so it's bizarre, isn't it?
That's what I love about it. It's actually a win-win situation. Like when you think of a mentor-mentee program, like you think that the mentees are the ones that are benefiting. But myself also being a mentor, you know, I learned so much from it. And I think that's the thing is if you're a mentor, it's okay if you don't know the answer. Like, and it's okay if your mentees come with something and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Tell us about it, you know, and then you go look into it. So yeah, and I love that it's given you confidence, you know, and I think about vet rehabbers in general. A lot of them are so scared to go and lecture, and exactly what you said now, like you don't realize that you actually know all the stuff. So when, you know, vet rehabbers are scared to go and lecture, they think, oh, but I don't know enough. But you do. It's all in there. It's in your head. You just, you know, you just need to you know, voice it. And like you say, when someone asks you a question, you know the answer to it. You know, you have your opinion on it. And if you don't know the answer, it's also okay as a mentor, or if you're lecturing, to say, hey, that's a really good question. I'm not sure of the answer, but I can go look for it. And I think that you need a bit of confidence in order to be able to do that. So you have to be confident in yourself to be able to say, well, like, I accept the things that I know, and I realize that I'm still learning, because that's the bottom line, is that we're all, you know, learning. That's why we have our hashtag, never stop learning, because it doesn't matter if you've been in practice for 15 years, if you lectured in every international conference around the world, nobody knows everything. We're still all learning, and we're learning from one another. And that's the benefit of this program. I think it's amazing. And I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you're doing for your mentees. And yeah, we need more people like you to share their knowledge and to help our community. So thank you.
You are very welcome. And thank you for starting it. Well done.
Thanks, Donna. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Danielle, thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Danielle, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you signed up to our mentor program?
So I am a small animal veterinarian in Ontario, Canada. I graduated from vet school in 2002. I'm a rehab vet now. So I have a small animal rehab and pain management referral practice. And that's all I do now. I did GP up until even a few years ago. And I look back to, you know, just veterinary medicine in general. So when I graduated from vet school, you know, you graduate, you're so excited, you're so pumped to like do all of the things, but there's so much doubt in yourself. And I had some really, really, really amazing vets that mentored me and that helped me out. And you know, as you get more confident in your skills and in life, you know, you're like, okay, well, how can I give back to all the new vet students coming out? And I think mentorship's a big part of that. So kind of fast forward to rehab, I think it's similar, right? All of these groups of individuals graduate from the rehab program, and then they're like, some of them don't practice right away. Some of them don't really know how to make things work from a business perspective, or maybe they are like in a small town and there's no one else doing it. And I think they feel lost. And I think it's easy to kind of get into a groove where you're like, okay, I've got post-op TPLOs, I've got post-op backs, maybe I can manage these. But what about all these really weird and wacky things that are coming in my door? Now I'm lost. I have no one to turn to. And I feel like we need to support one another. And that's part of why I kind of joined the mentorship program.
Yeah, I love it. You know, and I think a lot of them are also alone. You know, they either are like in a vet practice and are doing rehab, or they start on their own and they start a mobile clinic. And you know, it's very rare that you come out and then you suddenly find a job in a practice. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I started on my own. I think most people started on their own. It would be amazing to go into a rehab practice with a whole lot of other vet rehabbers to be able to support you. But that's not really the reality if you look like around the world. And that's the thing, is that you feel so alone. So having someone just to support you, and on a daily basis, I get emails from vet rehabbers, just saying, one of the emails that I sent out is all about confidence. And we had a great podcast actually about, how to build your confidence. And sometimes we just need a person, right? Just to say, yes, you're on the right track, or just to give you some advice and just reassurance that what you're doing is the right thing, because we do doubt ourselves. And especially in those early days, until we have experience behind us, and then you suddenly get to the stage where you're like, okay, like I got this. And I think it's different for everyone, the length of time, right? Until you get to that point. And even then, even having practiced rehab for 10 years, I can remember having a case and doubting myself, right? Thinking, am I doing the right thing? And I think it depends on your personality. I remember always thinking like, I didn't mind who treated my patients, like whether it was me or somebody else, as long as whatever was the best for that patient. And then I used to be concerned. I used to think, am I the right person? Am I the best person to be treating this patient? Maybe there's somebody else. And then just to have that person just to back you up and say, yeah, you're doing good. Or like, why don't you try this? Just maybe another tip or advice or something that you haven't even thought of.
Yeah. And I mean, I was by myself here for a long time. And then, we've had other rehabbers join the clinic. And, we are so fortunate to have that ability to kind of collaborate and go, okay, I'm lost. Like, I cannot, what else would you guys add to this patient? But even then, I still reach out to colleagues, out west or in other countries and say, okay, can I show you a picture of something and get your spin on it? What do you think of this gait? Or what do you think of this? And I mean, the online pet health platform on Facebook is fantastic. And I see the cases being posted all the time. But as an introvert, I'm less likely to go on there. And I'm sure if I'm like that, I know that there's a lot of others as well who are a little less, well, maybe I don't want to be made a fool of, or maybe they're going to make fun of me for not knowing this. And so they don't post. And I think that's why the mentorship program is so, so important.
Yeah. I just want to say, I want everyone never to feel like that, because we have like rules in our group that we're always supportive. And so like, I want you guys all to feel that you can post, but I think you're right. There's certain personalities that just don't like to put themselves out there, no matter what.
I never raised my hand in class.
Yes, exactly.
Like, that kid. I wasn't like, hey, it's me.
You'd go afterwards, after the class had finished, to the next teacher and ask the question. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how many mentees do you have at the moment? And I know that it's always changing. People are coming in and out.
I think about 2. And, that's officially through this program. And then I just can't even remember who I talked to about this, but maybe it was Agnes. We had a conversation because I said, I get these people reaching out who want to do rehab or doing it. And they, it's not even about rehab questions, but about life questions. Like, how do you manage a family and do this at the same time? How do you, is this financially feasible? And so it's not even necessarily, ongoing mentorship, but they have questions and concerns and they just want a conversation. And sometimes that one conversation is enough to make them feel better and we can sort through some things. Sometimes it's more ongoing where they're struggling with some different cases. And so every once in a while I'll hear from them and kind of help coach them and go, well, maybe add this or maybe don't do that. So yeah, right now I think I have about 2 through the program. And then, we get tons of vet students, we get externship students, and our externship students, it's like we grow this like team of colleagues that we can say, hey, can I ask you a question about this? And it's fantastic. And so even though they've finished their externship, they've graduated their CCRPs, we still all keep in contact, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny, like, you talk about those people that just reach out. Sometimes you can actually mentor somebody not in an official way, right?
Yeah.
They just like reach out to you every now and again, and you're actually mentoring them, but you never like said, okay, I'm your mentor, right?
Right.
Obviously the mentor-mentee program is sort of more an official thing. So when you meet with your mentees, how do you meet up with them?
It's been email so far, and I've offered kind of Zoom meetings and things like that. Other ones, maybe not through the program. I've gotten emails, and they're like, and I'll just say, you know what, this is my cell phone number, like call me. So if they're local or within Canada, I'll say, here's my phone number, just give me a call, and I'll sit and have like a conversation with them. But sometimes it's more, I have a list of questions and they'll email them, and then I can email them back answers. And I always offer Zoom, but haven't had anyone want that yet. I know my technician who works here also has, she said she has 3 mentees through the program right now with you, from various countries, and she's had Zoom meetings monthly with some of them, and others are just more email contact. I think we're all so busy. For me, email is always the easiest thing because I can quickly answer like while I'm making dinner, or I can quickly answer, doing whatever I'm doing in between appointments. Whereas setting up a Zoom call is sometimes a little more challenging. Totally willing to do it because I think we need to support one another. And so whatever works for the mentee, I'm willing to do.
Yeah. I think it also depends on the people. And I think sometimes, if they're also really busy, to try and find a time where you guys can both meet up. And sometimes the problems or challenges they're facing are easy enough to answer on in an email, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's like a discussion actually. So do you find that they all are like facing the similar type of challenges, or are they all individual?
They're individual. Sometimes it's cases, and sometimes it's, again, like they did their CCRP years ago, never actually branched out. We're still working in general practice. And then with COVID and everything, they're like, now's the time. How do I do this? And getting their comfort level back up, treating these cases. So it's a little bit of coaching that way. And then some of them are business questions, just business questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I think that's an area where us vet rehabbers and us vets actually are so weak, I mean, I think you having your own practice, me having my own practice, we just learned through default, right? Like we just, and we paid all the school fees, we made all the mistakes, and then we're like, oh, and I mean, I actually had a meeting today with a mentee, and I was sharing things, all the mistakes that I made, and he was like, sure, I'm so glad you're telling me this. And I was thinking, how useful this would have been to me, I've literally just prevented him from going down 2 years of back and forth and changing path and eventually getting on the right path, because what you think you should be doing and what you should be doing is sometimes different, and you only learn once you've done it that was wrong.
Right. Yeah. And even then, I've been able to develop some really good friendships with colleagues in general practice. And some of these women have owned practices for 30 years. So to be able to go, okay, I know this is different, but I need some feedback. Can you help me figure out what I'm doing wrong? Or can you help me figure this out? Whether it's staffing or HR or maybe, financial stuff. These people have been around the block. They've done this for many, many years. And so being able to get some information from them and some guidance is super helpful.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. So we'll be mentoring people, but we have our own mentors, people that are guiding us.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about this program. It's we just this massive community helping one another and uplifting one another and supporting one another. So that we can have successful practices and grow this amazing field that we're in.
Absolutely. And there's need for it. I mean, especially in our area, we're slammed. And I know if I talk to any colleagues doing it, they're slammed as well. It is incredibly busy. It's incredibly sought out by all of these clients. So it should never be a matter of this is all mine and I don't want to share it. It should be a matter of let's support one another so we can make sure that patients always are getting the best care possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, one of the things that I've really found is that I've actually learned so much through my mentees. So they teach me things. Have you found the same thing?
Yeah.
And especially like some of the newer graduates, they come through and just sort of in the clinical aspect, but sometimes even in the business aspect, you know, like I feel like the business side of things is my strong point. But, you know, somebody who's had a practice for 2 years will come up with an idea and I'll think that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
Do you find the same thing?
Haven't with my mentees, but with colleagues through on like Donna, and we were talking about Donna earlier. I'm like, and every once in a while she'll say something. I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to use that. Right. So being able to reach out and do all of that, I've learned from them for sure.
Yeah. And what do you take like away from like being a mentor? Like, what does it do for you personally?
I just feel like I'm giving back from things that I was able to benefit from early on in my career. And also knowing that when I started this rehab place, I mean, there weren't nearly as many rehab certified individuals or rehab clinics in the area at the time. And you've seen that steadily grow. And I wish for more, because maybe I would have had some guidance, like you said, from a business standpoint. Like my ability to run a business was small. It was like by default figuring things out. And so, you know, knowing that I can potentially, and again, I don't claim to have all the answers, but I can tell you what my experience has been and what has worked for me and what definitely has not worked for me. And so that's what I get out of it anyways, is being able to give back and make these, when you have these people come in and ask you questions or contact you, you're making more contacts that are just, you know, these are amazing people. I love meeting all these people and not just, you know, it takes you out of your kind of little bubble of, you know, Ontario, and these are people from the States and people from all over the world that, you know, you gain even information about their country and, you know, their way of doing things. That is just, that's what I take away from it.
Yeah. And you're obviously a regular attendee of the Coffee with Megans that we have on the last Friday of every month. And I mean, I even think that's like, you know, it's a whole lot of us that get together from all over the world. And we learn from one another. Every single time I learn something in those coffees. I love them. It's one of my favorite days of the month. I love getting together, you know, chatting to all of you guys. And learning from one another. I think that's the thing, is that we really have to support one another and learn. Just keep learning from one another. Can't keep all that information.
Right.
Did you ever think like, you know, I think one of the things, there's so many different levels of knowledge, right? And, you know, one of the things I want the listeners to know, like if you're in the field of vet rehab, you're one of us vet rehabbers and you're wanting to potentially mentor, I don't want you guys to be scared to think like, maybe I don't have the knowledge to do that, because every single one of you, no matter where you are in the journey, can mentor somebody, right? And you know, I remember for me, when I started mentoring, I was always so worried, thinking like, you know, am I going to know the answers, you know?
Right.
Did you ever have that kind of feeling? You know, how's it been for you? Like, is it, I mean, obviously the longer you've been in the field, the more experience you have, but there are questions sometimes you think, oh, that's actually a good question, and sometimes you have to think about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, I don't know, I'm always a big fan in vet med, well, in life, but definitely in general practice, and then again in rehab. I know what I know, and I'm very aware of what I don't know. And, you know, that's the great thing about continuing education. It's a great thing about our profession, is that we can then learn it, right? Then we can go and go, okay, I'm going to add this to something that I need to investigate. And so, yeah, it hasn't come up yet as far as someone asking me a question I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to, and then I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to look
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually the kind of attitude you need. Like, I know what I know and I know what I don't know.
Right.
And if something comes up, then it's a highlight for you to say, hey, I don't know that. I got to go and learn about that.
Yeah.
Danielle, thank you so much for being a part of the mentorship program. It means so much to us all at Online Pet Health, all you guys that are out there mentoring, sharing all your knowledge. supporting the vet rehabber community. It's so, so important, and we treasure you guys.
Well, thank you for starting it, right? It's a good thing.
Awesome, Danielle. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. And please, if you get a moment, head over to Stitcher or iTunes and leave me a review. It's a really lonely job being a podcaster, and so the only time I get to hear from you or know that you're out there is when I get a review. And know that I read every single one of your reviews. So to those of you that have left reviews, I want to say a very, very big thank you. Every time we get a review, it really helps to get the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast out there to all the vet rehabbers all over the world. All right, vet rehabbers, so if you are looking for more continuing education in the field of veterinary rehabilitation, head over to onlinepethealth.com. Go be awesome, guys.